Yeah, so I know we're doing this from TikTok Live, but since there will be rebounds, like people coming in and out, so I'm going to be recording. With the recording, those who want to watch a full recap of the class can be able to do so. So to join the class, basically, you only need to do one thing, which is to download VS Code on your MacBook or onto your Windows laptop, whatever kind of laptop or Linux. So just download VS Code. So this is it. You just download from Windows, then you install. You use this button here, and that will be all. So I already have it installed, and I already have my slide for today's class, which is this slide about essential HTML basically. So the objective of the class is very simple, which is we're trying to know what is the significance of HTML, how to create an HTML boilerplate, and how to use important HTML tags to compose a web page. So every time you go on a website, there is the backbone of every website or every web component that you see when you go into your browser is HTML, which basically stands for hypertext markup language. So that is what this first slide is trying to explain to us. I don't know how. Give me a moment. Let me find. Yeah. So with that, I just hit the sidebar, so it should make it easier to see the content of the slide. So this first page basically says um, hypertext markup language, which is the full meaning of HT, then M, then L, of course. So it's a markup language that defines the structure of your web content. HTML consists of a series of elements which you use to include or wrap different parts of the content to make it appear a certain way. So what this is basically saying is that HTML is a language, but it's not really a programming language per se. It's called a markup language. From little knowledge of just basic English, when you use something to mark up another, you just using it to construct. So it's like something you use to construct another thing. So and there are, if you look at this simple, let me change to 200%. Let me see if 200 is not good. Let me check. I'm trying to get the appropriate zoom level that's going to be good for the mobile viewers. So, and 180 is still not good. 160. I think around 160 should be good. So if you join the class and you're interested, there's no problem. I'll make a link to the recording available after the. I don't even know why the camera is not even showing my latest. I think the camera should be back now too. So let's go back to what we're talking about. So HTML is a markup language used to describe the structure of your web content. So basically what this guy is saying is that when you're trying to do HTML, there will be different parts. So there will be the opening tag portion, which is from like this to this. So this is like your opening tag. Then you have the content, which is what you're putting inside of the tag. Then you have your closing tag. So a tag is basically composed of just like a human being. I don't know if you can see my two hands. You're going to have your left hand is the left is you have your left hand side. Then let's say your head is the tag. Then your right hand side is the is what you use to enclose the tag. So basically, so for instance, now you can see this P. This looks like a less down. Then this is the HTML tag. So there are different HTML tags, which is what I'm still going to teach us about. So then you have the greater than sign, which you basically use to show that, okay, so the composition of these three is your opening tag. Whatever text you put in between is your content, and this is your closing tag. So combination of your opening tag, your content, and your closing tag is called an HTML element, right? So that is what this slide is trying to teach us. So then let's proceed to the next one. I still couldn't get the right zoom level. 140. Even 140 is not good. 125. Yeah, so according to this slide now, the opening tag consists of the name of the element, in this case, which is P. The closing tag is the same as the opening tag, except that it includes a /. If I go back to the previous slide, you can see that this opening tag and closing tag, they look similar, and apart from the fact that the closing tag has a / to it. So I'll go to my VS Code now. Then I'll show us how to do this. So the first thing you need to do to start, let me just delete this, is you need a file, basically, which is an HTML file. And how do you, so what I always tell people is you should create a folder, maybe in your document folder. So let's say you can call the folder anything. For me, I'll call the folder, let me increase the zoom level of the screen. Sorry, you might hear that sound a little at times because so what I'll try to do is I'll try to create a new folder. So I might call the folder my website or something. Then when you're done downloading your VS Code, your view should look like this. So you can click on open folder. From the open folder, you can then click on your document on your computer and create whatever is the name of the folder where you want to be writing your code. So for me, I'm trying to call this my website. So I'll click on this my website. So for those who are joining, don't worry, I'm already recording the session. So if you want to learn and follow along with the video later on, I'll make available the link. So you can click on my website and select the folder. So when you select the folder, almost every file on your system relies on the extension type. So if I click on this, so you can see this on this left side of my VS Code, there's this icon that looks like sorry, I'm getting a call. I need to end it. Yeah, so I'm back. So you click on this new file, then you can do you can type in the name you want to call your code file. So your code file can be anything. You can call it my name, you can call it your name, but by default, just by popular convention, when your first file that you're trying to write into your code base in most languages is usually called index, which is like the source. So the source file or something. So index.html. So the dots, having a dot after the name before you type in the HTML is very important, because whatever comes after the dot is what determines the file format that the file is going to be. And because we're trying to create a file that is of type HTML, it has to be .html. So that is what I'm going to do here. Then the next thing, which is not really important, but is to create something we call a boilerplate. So a boilerplate basically is like just like a sample of what, just like an example of something. So when you are in your VS Code and you have your HTML, all you have to do to create your boilerplate, there's already a shortcut for that. Or for a start, I'm not going to try to show us that yet. I'll just do my less than, then I'll put HTML, which is to show that what I want to put inside of this file is HTML. So you need your less than, then the HTML tag, then you need to put your, what's it called, your greater than sign. Then you also need to type, the code editor is very smart these days, such that once you type in the opening tag, it's going to automatically add the closing tag by itself. So then we can try to follow along with what the slide is trying to teach us. So the slide is saying, but by default, if you look at this one, if I do Control S to save the file, and you can install an extension. I hope I still remember the name of the extension. Should be an extension that can it should be live server. So live server basically can allow you to share, to run your code, and it can allow you to, just from your VS Code, open what you're doing and have a preview just over there. And you can also, so once you have installed it, it will change to this. Once you are seeing disabled, that means you already have the extension. So you can come back in here then. So if I do right click and I say open with live server, it will ask, do you allow access to public private? Because basically what this is trying to do is it's trying to create just like a local IP address and trying to host your HTML file on there. So once I click on allow, live reload is not possible without a head or a body tag. So it needs a head or body tag. So I'll still explain what those are to, just like the name suggests. So you need a head tag. So this is head, opening and closing head tag. Just beneath that, you press enter, then you do body. Then you can save and you can open with live server. You can see that nothing is really showing. But if you inspect, you right click and you click on inspect. I don't know if that was big enough. Let me try to increase my. So if you see that you have a body tag, this was something injected by, but there's really there's really nothing you're telling your page to display yet. So we can go back to our VS Code now and then put, because I'll still try to explain some things to us. Some tags are not meant to show on the screen. Not every HTML tag is meant to be displayed on the screen. So one of the ones that usually show on the screen is called paragraph tag, which is represented by P. So if you do a open and closing P tag, so this is your paragraph tag. So anything you type inside of this is going to show. So if I do hello, my first HTML page, and I put it inside of this P tag, inside of the body tag. The P tag is essentially the paragraph tag, similar to what the slide is telling us. So whatever content you put in here doesn't really matter. This says Patera DP Cats. You can put any content you want. You can put your name. So if you save this and you go back to your browser to check the page, that you can see the text is showing here. Let me increase the font also here so you can see. Hello, this is my first HTML page. So this is essentially what HTML is about. It's about composing your web pages. By default, your page should have an HTML tag, opening and closing tag. So everything you're writing in your web page will all be inside of the HTML tag. The first tags you need to put is your head tag. The next tag to put is the body tag. So by default, everything you want to show on your web page will be written into the body tag. So that's why we have our p tag inside of the body and not inside of the head. Anything you put inside of the head will not be displayed inside of the browser. There are some other things you can put inside of the head tag, which we're still going to talk about later, but not right now. So let's go back to the slide. So this slide is talking about the boilerplate code. So boilerplate, what I tried to do the other time was to type the tags manually, like the HTML tag. You can see there's an HTML tag, then there's a head inside of it, and there's a body tag. So this is a sample boilerplate code. A boilerplate or just boilerplate are sections of the code that are repeated in multiple places with little to no variation. Then this says if you forget to include this code, some of the HTML5 tags like article footer may not be supported by the browser. So I'll still explain. There are ways to go about. So instead of trying to do this manually, I can, from your empty index.html page, so I'm going to delete this. I'll save. You can just do hold your shift key and press 1. Usually the button for 1 on your keyboard has an exclamation mark. So when you have an exclamation mark like this, you can see it says there is an Emmet abbreviation for 1. So when you click on it, you can see it automatically generated those boilerplate codes for you. So that is a simple way to, so anytime you need to write an HTML page, you don't need to type the HTML boilerplate by yourself. You can just create the file, then type in the exclamation mark and press enter. It's going to automatically generate the boilerplate for you. So this boilerplate, different portions of it have different usefulness. The doc type HTML is basically needed in the latest version of HTML is HTML5. So there are some tags that were added in HTML5 that were not in previous versions of HTML. So if you don't put this doc type, this first tag here, this first line of code here, it's those tags that were introduced into HTML5 will not be supported by some of your browsers. I don't know if maybe any update has been done in recent times for browsers to be able to identify them even without this line of code, but some tags will not really be readable by your browser if you don't put this. Then the first main tag, but you notice that this doc type HTML, it doesn't have a closing tag. It's more like something we call a meta tag. Meta means an extending tag. It's just something that gives more meaning to what you're doing. It might not necessarily have its own meaning in itself. So HTML is still the root element, which is like the element that wraps around everybody. Then you can see the edge tag. This head tag, these three, I'll still explain them towards down the line into the training, this title, whatever you have here, title, even though it's not going to be displayed on the page, it is usually like the tag you see when you hover on your browser. You see this place we have document. If I do control S and I say open with live server and I go to my live server, if I hover on, you can see the tab, you can see the text showing there, document. That is because the title that is written inside of the HTML page is called document. So even though the title, everything you have inside of the head tag is not going to be displayed in the body of your browser, you can title tag whatever you have inside of the title tag, can be able to you can be able to use that to give a preview to your page. And this is also still useful when you're doing something we call search engine optimization. Some things you put in this meta tag and this title tag is essentially what part of what Google and all these but all these search engines will be able to use to show a preview of your website to people when they search directly on Google or on whatever. So instead of this, maybe I'll call this my web page. So if I save this and I call this my web page, and I switch to the browser, so you can hold Alt on your keyboard and press Tab. If you have two windows showing and you hold Alt, your Alt key Alt, and you press Tab, is going to show you the options you have, so you can toggle between them. So for me, I have this and this. So once I press Alt and I press Tab, it's going to keep switching between my VS Code and my browser. So let's come back to what we're talking about. So let me now put my P tag inside of body now. Then I can say hello from my first. You can put anything here really in between the P tag from my first paragraph. I'm not updating right now, so I have this saved, so you can see my text here. Let me close all these other tabs. I don't need them right now. So we already spoke about the doc type. That doc type, if you don't put the doc type, some new tags that were added in HTML5 is not going to be supported by your browser. So you need to have this first line, and we don't really need to cram it. I already showed us how to always generate these boilerplates on our VS Code. So I'm just trying to go through this slide to make sure we don't leave any stone unturned. So this one is HTML, it says HTML is the top level element of the HTML file. You will nest the body and head and body tags inside of it. The lang attribute inside the opening HTML tag sets the language for the page. It is also good to include it for accessibility reasons, because screen readers will know how to properly pronounce the text. So what this is saying is that this will bring me to another thing. Inside of your tag, you can still have some other things to extend your tag, which are called attributes, and one of them is called lang. So lang is just a short form for language. Just like there are different languages. There is French, there is Spanish, there is English. So some people that will be coming to your web page might even be coming from China. So and there are different. So EN basically mean English. I think FR means French. ES means Spanish. So there are different short words like that for different languages. So you don't need to worry yourself about it. If you don't put it, I'm sure the default is English. So one of the usefulness of the attributes when you put it inside of the HTML tag is so that it tells your screen readers. So there's something we call accessibility. So for people that are blind or people that cannot really move, at times they use screen reader to tell them what is being shown to them on their web page. So if you have the language set wrongly, their screen reader will not be reading for them in the right language. So that is one thing to take note. Then the head tag, it says head tag contains information that is processed by machines. So inside of the head tag, I think this one, I need to zoom in a little. Let me do 125. Should be better a little. Yeah. So it says the head tag contains information that is processed by machine. Inside the head tags, you will nest metadata, which is data that describes the document to the machine. So this is a lot of English, but basically this is saying that when you write your code is not really being read by you. It's read by the web engine, which is basically your browser, right? So there are some codes that you don't really need your users. Users are the people that are coming to your website, right? You don't need your users to tamper with the code or to know anything about those codes. You don't need the codes that you need your user to see. You are going to have those ones inside of the body tag. But some codes that you just need to give extra information to the machines, just like the title tag now. You don't need to show that to your browser, to your user. You just want to use that to talk to your search engines and maybe also some users that decide to come and over on the page. So those kind of tags now, you don't need to have them in your body tag. You have them in your head tag. So that's what this is saying. This first one, which is meta character set UTF-8. So this just basically talks about like because at the end of the day, all these HTML files, when they are being sent between your browser and the web server that they are going to be hosted, they are sent in something called packets in networking. So there has to be some kind of encoding happening. So this UTF-8 is like one of the encoding, what do they call that? Let me just say encoding process that is being used. So that is what this first meta tag is telling the browser. The second one is about viewport, saying width equals to device width, initial scale equals to 1.0. So this is simple to understand. This meta tag is talking about the viewport, like how should the browser try to open this file? It should try to open it in such that the content of the HTML file is taking the whole width of the device. So if you are opening it on a small device, the content of the web page should take the whole width of the device. If you are opening it on a big screen, it should take the whole width. So it's like saying then the initial scale being 1.0 is like saying the web page should by default be viewed at 100% zoom level. That's what the initial scale 1.0 mean. And I already spoke about the title. The title tag is the title that the web page will have on the user's browser. And if we come back to what's it called, you can see our title here is what? My web page. That's why if I go to my web page, you can see that the title that is showing here is that my web page. And even when you hover, you can see the preview that is showing that the preview is also showing my web page. So that is what the title tag does. So let me move on to the next thing. So the next thing is talking about types of HTML tags, saying some tags are block level elements, some tags are inline level elements. So it's simple what these two mean. The block level elements, just like when you put a block in a space, nothing else can really stay on the same spot with the block, because you can't fold it alongside other things. So block level elements appear on a line, and any other element that you try to write beside them is not going to be able to sit on the same line with them. It's either they will force the next item that you're trying to put beside them, they will force it to go to a new line instead of staying on the same line with them. While inline elements are basically like HTML elements that can allow other HTML elements to stay on the same line with them. Okay, so I'll take some example from here. This talks about H1 paragraph UL. UL is also a type of tag which is for unordered list. Navigation is also a type of tag that is a block level. Footer is also a type of tag that is a block level. Then there are inline. Inline is things like EM or strong, A tag, span, and some other tags like that. So I'll show us a demonstration of that. If I have H1 tag, H tags simply stand for heading tags, and there are 6 of them starting from H1 to H6. So H1 is like the biggest. So by default, it is recommended that you should only have one H1 tag on a page, because your page should only have one usefulness. So H1 should be like the topic of the page, just like when you're writing when you're writing like an article when we're in high school. There's usually something called the topic sentence. So some topic sentence is basically the main purpose or the main topic that your article or whatever is trying to discuss. So let's say the main usefulness is that this is my first web page. So that's basically what the whole of this one is about. So I can say this is my first web page. So if I save, I have my text inside of the H1 tag. I have the opening tag, I have the closing tag. So if I switch to my web page, you can see H1 is very big. If I want to, so there are still other tags that are also in the H category. There's H2. Let me say this is second line in my web page. So I'll just try to duplicate. There are shortcuts to do that, but I won't use shortcuts now. So I'll just type in the codes manually, or I'll copy, then I'll paste, then I'll just edit. So I'll change this to H3. By default, VS Code is smart. When you try to switch, it should switch, but it didn't switch the closing tag. I don't know why. So I'll just do it myself. Then you can take the next one, H4, H5, and H6. H6 is the smallest. So second, I'll change this to third. Change this to fourth. I hope I still remember my spelling properly. Is there U there? Okay, it's 40 that doesn't have U. So see this fifth, then now spelling 50. Yeah, that's diabolical. So this is the sixth line in my web page, and so if I save and I go to my web page, you can see H1. This is H1. This is hello. Another question. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Ashingo, Ashin. Hello, yeah, so I'm back. So you have your H1 to H6, which is basically your heading tags. So apart from your heading tags, and all your heading tags from H1 to H6, they are all block level elements. Block level elements don't allow a new tag to stay on the same line with them. So if I put, let's say there's a tag called emphasis. So emphasis basically is going to make whatever you put inside of it, it's going to make it bold. So let's say this is a strong, let's say this is a strong message, and I save. If I come here, oh, emphasis is for italics, sorry. Strong, yeah, strong should be the one that makes it bold. Sorry, I'm already forgetting my talks. So you can see this is looking bold, unlike, but you notice something. When I have my H6, let me comment this out. You can comment out by holding Control and clicking / on your keyboard. That is going to turn it into some kind of green. Then when it is in green, that block of code, it's not going to be shown into the browser. So if I come here, you can see all those lines are gone. You can see that when I have this H1 H6, and I say this is the sixth line in my web page, and I have a strong message following that, this H6 is not allowing this strong to stay on the same line with it. Even though strong is an inline element, strong will try to stay on the same line with whichever element it meets in the web page. But H tags, which are the heading tags, they don't allow another component to stay on the same line with them. So if you want two elements to stay on the same line, then two of them have to be an inline element. So strong is an inline element. If I want it to stay on the same line, then this won't be it won't be an H tag. So H tags are all block level elements. Even if I uncomment the other ones and I try it out with H1, let me comment out H2 with up to H6, it's still going to be the same behavior, and I save. If I come here, you can see this text is not staying on the same page with this. But if I comment out this guy and I say strong, this one is strong. Let's say I use emphasis, these two will stay on same line. I'm just using that text. If I come here, you can see the two inline elements, they are showing on the same line, even though they are written on different lines. So far they are like sisters. They are standing next to each other, and the two or more of them are inline elements. They are going to show on the same line. So that is technically the difference between a block level element and an inline element. So let's move forward. The next thing, let's talk about self-closing tags. So self-closing tags basically are like, just like what I've been showing us so far. We have tags that when you write the opening tag, you need to have a closing tag. So there are some tags that they are self-closing. Once you write the first portion, you don't need to put a closing tag, and one of them is the image tag. So anytime you need to show image tag, you don't need to write the closing tag. So the opening tag for the image is img. So if I want to display an image, I'll just do img, then I'll just type it this way, like just img. So with this is already an image tag. I don't need to type another tag like this and say /img. No, it doesn't need it. All you need is just the opening tag. So I'll delete this. No, I already messed my code up. So img, you can press Ctrl Z or Ctrl Z depending on how you pronounce it in your country. I know some people might be pronouncing Z. In my country, pronounced as Z, but over here in America, they pronounce Z most times. So the image tag, even though we didn't tell it what image to show, when you come here, it's not showing anything, I think, because we never told it what to show. Then that will bring me to a second thing. There's something called attributes. So just like a human being, your color is your attribute. So the same way, you can switch your color. You can switch your color from being whatever to whatever. I'm not trying to be about color right now. Or maybe you can change the shape of your hairstyle. The same way some tags allow you to customize what is inside of them. So image has an attribute called SRC. SRC, which stands for the source. So source is basically how do you want to give it what to display. So you can source the image from the internet. Is the easiest. I won't say it's the easiest way, but for now, because I'm still going to teach us properly about each of these tags. What I'm just trying to teach us now is the types of HTML tags that we have. I've shown us that we have some tags that are called block level elements, some tags that are called inline level elements. Then there are some tags that are called self-closing tag. So this self-closing tag, one of them is the image tag. So if I have an image, so I can go, so let's say I want to show, let me go to our website, pantheratechschool.com. If I go there and let me just find one image there, let me look for this handsome man. Open and say copy image address, and I just copy. So that is like the link where his image is actually hosted. Oh, I already mistakenly closed my nothing is lost. So this is like the image. So I can copy this link and come to my VS Code and make this image SRC. Inside of the SRC, SRC equals to, inside of the quote, I'll still teach us more about what the quote means later. Inside of the quote, I paste in that link. So this is pantheratechschool.com/images/gilbert.png. So if I save and I do right click on my code, open with live server. So you can see the image showing on my web page. So this image is a self-closing tag. There's still all these tags that we've spoken about. There's still another class. I think that will be the third class where we are going to talk about each tags in much more detail. So for now, I'm just trying to show us different types of tag. We have the block level tags. We have the inline tags. Then we have the self-closing tags. So let's go on. This slide is also telling us that there are two other tags that are also self-closing. One of them is the HR, which means horizontal rule, and BR, which stands for break. So HR basically means that. So for instance, now let's say I have this strong element, this strong text that I have here, and I want to put a line, an horizontal line. Horizontal goes like on x-axis. So if I want to have that there, I can just, after the closing tag, I can press enter. Then I'll do my less than HR, which is for horizontal rule. Then I'll close it. If I save this and I come back to my web page, you can see a line being drawn there. That is what HR does. HR is an horizontal rule. So it is also a self-closing tag. So, and I think at the same time, it is also a block level element, because you can see it's blocked, it stopped image and this guy from staying on the same line. Just put a space in between everybody. So, and you can see that EM and image, they are both inline, because you can see that the text and the image, they are staying on the same line. If I want to, so for instance now, if I want to break this EM now and image, if I want to break them separately, but I don't want a line to show, I can use a BR. So BR is like a break, is like it's like HR but without the line. So it's more like an invisible break, unlike the HR, which is a visible break with an horizontal line. So BR is going to break them horizontally, but it's not going to show. So if I put BR here and I save, you can see that this and this guy, they were splitted into two different lines, even though they were inline level elements that are meant to stay by each other. But because I put a BR in between them, it created a break, an invisible break between the two of them, and pushed one to the next line. So that is what your BR tag does. So BR and HR are both self-closing tag. So you can decide to write it. So it doesn't matter how you decide to write them. You can just write them. So you don't need like to have another tag that will now say, oh, slash HR. I don't know why this VS Code keeps suggesting rubbish, but you don't need that. Just type your HR inside of less than and a greater than sign, and the tag works. The same thing. So BR, HR, and image tag, the three of them are all self-closing tags. So the next thing to talk about, I already had to talk about it because of the image tag. So attributes, that is attribute. Attribute contains extra information about the element that won't appear in the content. Like I told us, whatever you put in between the tags is the content. That is what we show. The tag itself will determine the behavior, right? But there's also another thing called attribute. So attribute usually contains extra information that will not appear in the content. So for instance, you can try to say some group of elements belong to a particular class. Let me zoom in on this. So if you see, you can see that this is your normal P tag. But before we closed the opening tag, we had another set of text here called class equals to editor note. So this shows that we're trying to add some extra information to the tag. So attributes basically allows us to put extra information about a tag. The usefulness of this is not something I will explain to us now, but it's something we'll get to know when we get to CSS. Because this class equals to editor note basically means that we are trying to put this paragraph, we are trying to add it to a class. So a class basically, just like in real life, when you are a member of a class, if there's something that is meant to, if there's something given to a particular class, it automatically affects you, right? So for instance, now if you belong to a mathematics class and they give assignments in mathematics class, whether you attend the class or not, you're already part of the people that are expected to submit the assignment. So that is the same way a class works in programming. Basically, it means there are some group of elements or attributes and you're trying to make them to be a member of a particular class, so that anything that you do as far as that class is concerned is going to affect everybody. Let me take this back to 125. Sorry, I'm struggling with this because I always have to keep coming live with my Windows laptop, and I'm not really used to it. I'm more used to my MacBook, so at times the control and moving around might be a little bit tricky for me. So it basically says an attribute, you should have a space between it and the element name. So you can see there's a space between P and class. So not that you put P then you write class immediately. So you have to put a space. Then whatever the attribute is, you need to follow it by an equal to sign. then you put two quotation marks, opening and closing quotation mark, inside of which you are going to put the value of that attribute. So in this one now, when we say class equals to editor notes, it means we are adding this paragraph to a class called editor notes. So let me go to the next slide. Oh god, I'm really struggling with the navigation right now. Guy, move to the next. Yeah. So this is talking about HTML heading tags. So it's coming back to now explain different tags to us again. So there is H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, which are already explained to us, which means there are 6 levels of heading sections. So you can use them to put heading into your page. So the H6 is the smallest. From H1 to H6, that's like the ones that you have basically. Then let's go. I think I already explained these in parts. Then this talks about span and div. So I think I'm going to stop around here. How many page lists, link? There's still a lot. No, we can't finish this in one. It's going to be too much. So I'll stop at span and div for now. Then I'll come live again later and complete the other parts of. Or maybe we end this here. Then I start from this section, the section 2 of this slide, which is basically essential HTML2. So let's end it here. I'll start from span and div at the next class. So I'll keep a recording. If you're interested, you can send a DM. I'll share you with the recording.